A little girl's phone call reunited a millionaire CEO and his ex-wife after 5 years. Final part. 3 months after Nathaniel cut his father out of their lives, Grace came home from school with an envelope that made his blood run cold. Inside was a letter on expensive letterhead from Richard Crawford's attorney, informing Nathaniel that his father was filing for grandparent visitation rights. But that wasn't the worst part. Attached were photographs of Nathaniel at the grocery store, at Grace's school, at the park, taken from a distance by someone following them. His father had been watching them, stalking them, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And the war Nathaniel thought he had won was just beginning. Welcome back to our Dr. Samuel Chronicles family for the final part of this incredible journey. Thank you to every single subscriber who has walked this path with us through heartbreak, regret, and redemption. If this is your first time here, welcome, and please hit that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications, because this conclusion will move you in ways you never expected. This is a story about the battle between love and power, between a father protecting his child and a monster who won't let go. Please like this video and share it with everyone who needs to understand that some fights are worth everything. Comment below and tell us what you think Nathaniel should do. Your engagement brings these stories to more people who need to hear them. Now, let's return to Nathaniel as he faces the fight of his life. Nathaniel stood in his kitchen, staring at the photographs, his hands shaking with rage and fear. There was Grace on the playground, unaware she was being watched. There was Grace holding his hand in the parking lot of the grocery store. There was Grace coming out of school, her backpack too big for her small frame. Someone had been following his daughter, taking pictures of her, and that someone was working for Richard Crawford. Maria had come over as soon as he called, and now she sat at the table reading through the legal documents, her face growing paler with each page. This is bad, Nathaniel. He's claiming that you're an unfit parent because you have no stable employment, no permanent ties to Portland, and a history of abandoning Grace. He's using your own past against you. I'm not that person anymore. I know that. You know that. But on paper, he has a case. You were an absent father for years. You quit your job impulsively. You moved to a new city with no support system except me. A judge might see that as unstable. Nathaniel sat down heavily. What does he want? Marie kept reading. He's asking for supervised visitation once a month. But Nathaniel, this is just the beginning. Men like your father, they don't ask for visitation because they want to spend time with their grandchildren. This is about control. This is about punishing you for defying him. He's not getting near her. I don't care what I have to do. Then you need a lawyer, a good one. And you need to be prepared for your father to drag every mistake you've ever made into court. Nathaniel thought about the letters from Anastasia, about the proof she had gathered of Richard's manipulation. I have evidence of what he did to Anna. The threats, the document manipulation. That has to count for something. Maybe, but you need professional help. This isn't something you can fight alone. That afternoon, after Grace came home from school, Nathaniel sat her down. He had to tell her something, but he didn't know how to explain that her grandfather, a man she had never met, was trying to force his way into her life. Grace, baby, do you know what a grandfather is? She nodded. Emma has a grandfather. He picks her up from school sometimes and gives her candy. Right. Well, I have a father. That would be your grandfather. His name is Richard. Grace looked confused. Why don't I know him? Because he and I don't get along. He's not a very nice person, and I don't want him around you. Oh, okay. Grace went back to coloring. The matter settled in her 5-year-old mind. If only it were that simple. Nathaniel hired the best family attorney in Portland, a woman named Susan Chun, who had a reputation for being brilliant and ruthless. She listened to his story, reviewed the documents from Anastasia's lawyer, and looked at the photographs Richard's attorney had sent. Your father is a piece of work, she said bluntly. But he's a rich piece of work with unlimited resources and no conscience. This is going to get ugly. How ugly? He's going to dig into every aspect of your life. Every business dealing, every relationship, every moment you weren't there for Grace. He's going to paint you as an unstable narcissist who abandoned his family and is now playing house because of guilt. He's going to argue that Grace needs stability and that he can provide that. But he can't. He's the reason I left my family in the first place. He manipulated the divorce, threatened Anastasia. We have proof. Susan nodded. And we'll use that. But you need to understand, family court isn't about punishing bad people. It's about what's best for the child. We need to prove that your father having access to Grace would be harmful to her, and that you are a fit, stable parent who is genuinely changed. How do I prove that? You live it. You show up every day. You be the father you've been being. And you let me handle the legal side. The court date was set for 6 weeks away. 6 weeks of Nathaniel looking over his shoulder, checking for surveillance, making sure Grace was never alone. He increased security at her school, informed the teachers that under no circumstances was Richard Crawford or anyone claiming to represent him allowed near his daughter. He installed cameras around their house. He became hyper-vigilant, paranoid, terrified that his father would find a way to take Grace from him. The stress was enormous, but he couldn't let Grace see it. Every morning, he made her breakfast and walked her to school. Every afternoon, he picked her up and asked about her day. Every evening, they had dinner together and he helped with homework. Every night, he read her stories and tucked her in and told her she was loved. He maintained the routine, the normalcy, even as anxiety ate him alive. 2 weeks before the court date, Nathaniel was at the grocery store with Grace when he saw him. Richard Crawford, standing at the end of the aisle, watching them. Their eyes met across the distance, and Richard smiled. It was a predator's smile, cold and calculating. Nathaniel grabbed Grace's hand and walked quickly toward the exit, his heart pounding. He wouldn't confront his father in public, wouldn't give him the satisfaction or the ammunition. But as they walked past, Richard spoke just loud enough for Nathaniel to hear. She looks like you did at that age, before you became such a disappointment. Nathaniel kept walking, got Grace to the car, buckled her in with shaking hands. Daddy, who was that man? No one, baby, no one important. But Grace was perceptive. He looked mean. He is mean. That's why we don't talk to him. That night, Nathaniel called Susan in a panic. He approached us at the grocery store. He was following us. Can we get a restraining order? Did he threaten you? Touch Grace? Say anything specifically threatening? No, but... Then no. He's allowed to shop at the same grocery store. I know it feels like harassment, and it is, but legally he hasn't done anything wrong. This is what he does, Nathaniel. He intimidates. He pressures. He tries to make you react emotionally so you do something stupid that he can use against you in court. Don't give him what he wants. I feel helpless. You're not helpless. You're a father protecting his child. Stay the course. Document everything, but don't engage. We're going to win this. Nathaniel wanted to believe her. The days crawled by. Nathaniel couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. He lost weight, developed dark circles under his eyes. Marie noticed and pulled him aside one afternoon. You're falling apart. Grace is going to notice. I can't let him win, Marie. I can't let him take her from me. He's not going to take her, but you need to take care of yourself. You're no good to Grace if you have a breakdown. She was right. Nathaniel forced himself to eat, to sleep, to exercise. He had to be strong for the fight ahead. 1 week before the court date, Susan called with news. Richard's attorneys have added something to their filing. They're claiming you're in a relationship with an unstable individual and that you're exposing Grace to inappropriate situations. What? I'm not in a relationship with anyone. They're claiming you're involved with Marie. They have photographs of her car at your house at all hours, of her spending time alone with you and Grace. They're twisting your co-parenting relationship with her sister into something inappropriate. Nathaniel felt sick. Marie is helping me raise Grace. She's my daughter's aunt. She's family. I know, and we'll explain that, but this is the kind of dirty tactics your father uses. He twists the truth into something ugly. We need Marie to testify about her relationship with you and Grace. Make it clear that she's there as family support, nothing more. When Nathaniel told Marie, she was furious. He's disgusting. Using Anastasia's death, our grief, our family bonds, and twisting them into something perverted. What kind of person does that? My father, Nathaniel said bitterly. That's exactly who he is. The night before the court hearing, Nathaniel couldn't sleep at all. He sat in Grace's room, watching her sleep, memorizing her face. What if the judge sided with Richard? What if supervised visitation was just the first step, and eventually his father found a way to take custody? What if Grace grew up under Richard's influence, became another victim of his manipulation? The thoughts spiraled until Nathaniel felt like he couldn't breathe. He went outside, sat on the back porch in the dark, and for the first time since Anastasia's funeral, he prayed. I don't know if you can hear me, Anna. I don't know if heaven works that way. But if you can, I need your help. I need your strength. I'm so scared I'm going to lose her. I'm so scared I'm going to fail again. Please, if you're watching over us like I told Grace you are, please help me protect our daughter. Help me be strong enough to fight him. Help me be the father you believed I could be. The wind rustled through the trees, and for just a moment, Nathaniel felt something. Peace, maybe, or just the exhaustion finally catching up to him. But he took it as a sign. He wasn't alone in this fight. Anastasia's love was still protecting their daughter, even from beyond the grave. The courthouse was intimidating, all marble and authority. Nathaniel wore a suit, conservative and respectful, nothing flashy. Susan had coached him on how to behave, how to speak, how to present himself as a stable, reformed father. Grace was with Marie's mother for the day, safe and unaware of the battle being fought over her future. Richard arrived with an entourage. 3 attorneys, all in expensive suits, carrying briefcases and exuding confidence. Richard himself looked exactly as Nathaniel remembered, silver-haired and distinguished, every inch the successful businessman. He looked at Nathaniel across the courthouse lobby and smiled that same cold smile. All rise. The Honorable Judge Patricia Martinez presiding. The judge was a woman in her 60s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She looked at the assembled attorneys, at Richard and Nathaniel, and her expression suggested she had seen this all before. This is a petition for grandparent visitation rights filed by Richard Crawford. Let's begin. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, please share this video with someone who needs to see how this ends. Subscribe to Dr. Samuel Chronicles if you haven't already, and turn on notifications. Comment below and tell us if you've ever had to fight to protect someone you love. Your engagement matters and helps us reach more people with these powerful stories. Now, let's see what happens in that courtroom. Richard's attorney went first, painting a picture of a concerned grandfather who had been unjustly kept from his only grandchild. He talked about Richard's success, his stability, his resources. He presented photographs of Nathaniel, looking exhausted and stressed, arguing that Nathaniel was struggling to parent alone. He brought up Nathaniel's history of abandoning Grace, of choosing work over family, of walking away from a billion-dollar company impulsively without thought to Grace's future security. Mr. Crawford is a man of means and stability who can provide his granddaughter with opportunities and experiences that the child's father cannot. He is asking only for a supervised visitation once a month, a chance to know his only grandchild. The father's refusal to allow this relationship is punitive and harmful to the child. Then it was Susan's turn. She stood up, and her voice was calm but firm. Your Honor, this case is not about a grandfather seeking a relationship with his grandchild. This is about a controlling, manipulative man attempting to punish his son for defying him and potentially gain access to a child for the purposes of continued manipulation. We have evidence that Richard Crawford threatened and harassed the child's late mother, manipulated legal documents in the parents' divorce, and has demonstrated a pattern of using family members as pawns in his power games. Susan presented the documents from Anastasia's lawyer, the altered divorce papers, the recordings of Richard's threats, Anastasia's detailed letters documenting the fear she lived with for years. Richard's attorney objected. These documents are hearsay, Your Honor. The person who wrote them is dead and cannot testify to their authenticity. But Susan was prepared. We have the testimony of James Morrison, the attorney who handled Anastasia Hartley's estate, who will verify that these documents came from her and that she documented everything out of fear for her daughter's safety. We also have testimony from Marie Hartley, the child's aunt who witnessed Richard Crawford's threats firsthand. Judge Martinez looked at the documents, her expression unreadable. I'll allow the testimony. Proceed. James Morrison took the stand and verified everything. The threats, the manipulation, Anastasia's fear that Richard would try to take Grace from her. Then Marie testified, her voice shaking but strong, about how Anastasia would call her crying after receiving threatening calls from Richard's attorneys, about how her sister had nightmares about losing Grace. My sister was terrified of that man, Marie said, pointing at Richard. She died terrified that he would somehow get to Grace after she was gone. Her last words to Nathaniel were protect Grace from Richard Crawford. Those were the last coherent words she spoke before she passed. Don't let him near Grace. Richard's attorney tried to discredit the testimony, suggesting that Anastasia was bitter about the divorce and had fabricated the threats. But Susan was relentless. Your Honor, we also have testimony from Nathaniel Crawford himself about the manipulation he experienced from his father, the ways Richard isolated him from his family and destroyed his marriage. Nathaniel took the stand, his heart pounding. Susan led him through his testimony. He talked about his marriage to Anastasia, about how happy they had been, about his father's disapproval, and the slow poison of Richard's manipulation, about the divorce and realizing too late that his father had orchestrated everything, about finding out, after Anastasia's death, what Richard had done. My father didn't push me to divorce my wife because he thought it was best for me, Nathaniel said, his voice steady. He did it because Anastasia represented something he couldn't control. She loved me for who I was, not for what I could achieve. She wanted me to be happy, not successful, and my father saw that as a threat. So he destroyed her. He destroyed our marriage. He stole 5 years of my daughter's life from me, and now he wants access to Grace, so he can do the same thing to her. Richard's attorney stood up. Objection, Your Honor. The petitioner is not on trial here. These are wild accusations without. They're not wild, Nathaniel interrupted. They're documented. They're proven. My father is a manipulator who uses people and discards them when they're no longer useful. I won't let him do that to my daughter. Judge Martinez held up her hand. Mr. Crawford, please refrain from outbursts. Continue, Ms. Chun. Susan presented more evidence. Testimony from Grace's therapist about how well Grace was doing with Nathaniel, how their bond had strengthened, how she was healing from her mother's death in a healthy way. Testimony from Grace's teacher about Nathaniel's involvement in school, his dedication to being present. Character witnesses from other parents, from neighbors, all speaking to Nathaniel's transformation into a devoted father. Then Richard's attorney put Richard on the stand. Richard was smooth, polished, sympathetic. He talked about regretting the distance between him and his son, about wanting to make amends by having a relationship with his granddaughter. He denied manipulating the divorce, calling it a misunderstanding blown out of proportion by a bitter ex-wife. He denied threatening Anastasia, suggesting she had been emotionally unstable and prone to exaggeration. I love my son, Richard said, looking directly at Nathaniel. I made mistakes as a father. I pushed him too hard, expected too much. But everything I did because I wanted him to succeed. I wanted him to have the life I built for him. And now I'm being punished for that by being kept from my only grandchild. All I want is a chance to know Grace, to be part of her life. Is that so terrible? It was a masterful performance. Nathaniel watched the judge's face and couldn't tell if she was buying it. Susan cross-examined, trying to crack Richard's facade. Mr. Crawford, you say you love your son. Is that why you threatened to destroy his ex-wife if she fought for custody? I never threatened anyone. I simply explained the reality of the legal system to a woman who was making emotional decisions. You call threatening to prove her an unfit mother explaining reality? I was protecting my son's interests. And altering divorce documents after your son signed them? Was that protecting his interests too? I have no knowledge of any altered documents. That an accusation from a woman who had every reason to be vindictive. Susan showed him the documents, showed him the evidence, but Richard had an answer for everything. He was too practiced, too skilled at manipulation to be easily trapped. When both sides rested, Judge Martinez called a recess. I need time to review the evidence and testimony. We'll reconvene in 1 hour for my ruling. That hour was the longest in Nathaniel's life. He sat in the hallway with Susan and Marie, unable to speak, barely able to breathe. Richard sat on the opposite end with his attorneys, looking confident and relaxed. Finally, they were called back in. Judge Martinez looked at both parties, her expression serious. This is a difficult case. On one hand, we have a grandfather seeking a relationship with his grandchild, which is generally something the court support. On the other hand, we have credible evidence of manipulation, threats, and a pattern of behavior that suggests the grandfather's motives are not in the child's best interest. Nathaniel's heart was pounding so hard, he thought he might pass out. I've reviewed the testimony and evidence carefully. I've considered the welfare of the child, which is the primary concern of this court, and I've made my decision. The courtroom was silent. The petition for grandparent visitation is denied. Nathaniel's knees almost gave out. Marie grabbed his hand, squeezing tight. Judge Martinez continued. While Mr. Richard Crawford presents himself as a concerned grandfather, the evidence suggests a pattern of manipulation and control that poses a risk to the child's well-being. The child's mother, before her death, explicitly stated her fear of Mr. Crawford having access to her daughter. The child's father has presented credible evidence of threats and manipulation. And most importantly, the child is thriving in her current situation with her father, showing no need for additional family relationships that could be destabilizing. Richard's face had gone red, his jaw clenched. Furthermore, the judge said, I am granting a restraining order preventing Richard Crawford from contacting the minor child, Grace Crawford, or approaching within 500 feet of her residence, school, or any location where she is known to frequent. This restraining order will remain in effect until the child reaches age 18 or until this court modifies it. Richard stood up. Your Honor, this is outrageous. I have rights as a grandfather. Mr. Crawford, sit down or I will hold you in contempt. You have the right to appeal this decision, but my ruling stands. This case is closed. The gavel came down and it was over. Nathaniel walked out of the courthouse, feeling like he could finally breathe for the first time in weeks. Susan hugged him, which was very unprofessional and absolutely appropriate. You did it, she said. You protected your daughter. Marie was crying. Anastasia would be so proud of you. Nathaniel looked back at the courthouse, where Richard was arguing with his attorneys, still trying to control a situation he had lost. For the first time in his life, Nathaniel had beaten his father. Not through money or business acumen, or playing by Richard's rules, but through being a good father, through choosing love over power. Let's go home, Nathaniel said. I need to see my daughter. Grace was playing in Marie's mother's backyard when they arrived. She ran to Nathaniel, and he scooped her up, holding her tight. Did you have a good day, Daddy? I had a very good day, baby girl. A very good day. That night, after Grace was asleep, Nathaniel sat in his backyard and called James Morrison, Anastasia's lawyer. I wanted you to know, we won. The judge denied Richard's petition and granted a restraining order. James's relief was audible. Anastasia would be so relieved. She worried about this for years. I know. I read her letters. All of them. She was protecting Grace even after death. She loved that little girl more than anything. She loved us both, more than we deserved. Nathaniel paused. James, there's something I want to do. Anastasia's savings account for Grace, the one she set up. She said to use it for something magical, not something practical. I remember. I want to start a foundation in Anastasia's name for children who have lost parents to cancer, to help with therapy, support groups, scholarships, whatever they need. I'll match whatever is in Grace's account and fund it going forward. Grace can be involved as she gets older, learn about her mother's legacy, understand the kind of person she was. Nathaniel, that's beautiful. Anastasia would love that. It's the least I can do. She spent her life giving to others. Her students, Grace, even me after I didn't deserve it. I want to honor that. I want Grace to grow up understanding that's what we do. We give. We love. We show up for people. After hanging up, Nathaniel pulled out the box of letters from Anastasia. He had read them all multiple times, but tonight he went back to the very first one. The one she wrote 6 months after the divorce, when the wound was still fresh. I hope you're happy, Nathaniel. I hope whatever you chose instead of us is worth it. He whispered into the dark. It wasn't worth it, Anna. Nothing was worth losing you. But I'm going to spend the rest of my life making sure Grace knows what you were worth. Making sure she understands that you were the best of us. The weeks after the court victory settled into a new normal. Nathaniel enrolled in parenting classes, wanting to be better, to learn more. He joined a support group for single fathers and found a community of men trying to navigate parenthood alone. He started therapy himself, working through the guilt and the grief, learning to forgive himself the way Anastasia had forgiven him. He also started the Anastasia Hartley Foundation, reaching out to hospitals and grief counseling centers, creating programs to support children dealing with the loss of a parent. Grace helped him pick out the logo, a butterfly, because she said that's what her mommy had become. Something beautiful that could fly anywhere and watch over people. 3 months after the court case, Nathaniel got a letter. It was from Richard's attorney, informing him that Richard Crawford had suffered a massive stroke and was in the hospital. The letter coldly noted that as next of kin, Nathaniel should be informed. Nathaniel stared at the letter for a long time. He could ignore it. He could let his father face this alone, the same way Richard had made him face so many things alone. It would be justice, in a way. Karma. But Nathaniel thought about Anastasia, about her capacity for forgiveness, about Grace, who was learning how to treat people by watching him. And he made a choice. He asked Marie to watch Grace, and he flew to New York. The hospital was one of the best in the city, which made sense. Richard Crawford would never settle for less than the best, even in illness. Nathaniel found his father's room on the cardiac ICU floor. Richard was asleep, looking older and smaller than Nathaniel had ever seen him. Tubes and wires connected him to machines. His skin was gray. His breathing labored. A nurse came in, checking monitors. "Are you family?" "I'm his son." Her expression softened. "He's been asking for you." "Well, he can't speak clearly because of the stroke, but he's been trying to say your name." Nathaniel sat in the chair beside the bed and waited. Eventually, Richard's eyes opened. They focused on Nathaniel, and something flickered in them. Surprise, maybe, or regret. "Nathaniel," it came out slurred, difficult to understand. "I'm here, Dad." Richard's eyes filled with tears. Nathaniel had never seen his father cry. Not once in his entire life. "I'm sorry." The words were barely intelligible, but Nathaniel understood them. "I know. Grace. Grace is fine. She's safe. She's happy. She's everything good that I almost threw away." Richard's hand moved slightly on the bed, and Nathaniel understood. His father wanted him to take his hand. For a moment, Nathaniel hesitated. This man had destroyed his marriage, threatened the woman he loved, stolen years of his daughter's life. This man had poisoned his soul and nearly ruined him completely. But Nathaniel reached out and took his father's hand anyway. "I forgive you, Dad. Not because you deserve it. Not because what you did was okay. But because holding on to hate only hurts me and Grace. And I can't let you poison my life anymore. So I forgive you." Richard squeezed his hand weakly, tears streaming down his face. Nathaniel stayed for an hour, sitting quietly as his father drifted in and out of consciousness. When he finally stood to leave, Richard's eyes opened again. "Be better than me," Richard whispered. "I will be, Dad. I already am." Take a moment right now to reflect on this journey with us. Share this video with someone who needs to understand the power of forgiveness and the courage it takes to break cycles of hurt. Subscribe to Dr. Samuel Chronicles and turn on notifications. Comment below and tell us what you think about Nathaniel's choice to forgive his father. Does Richard deserve forgiveness? Does it matter? Your thoughts and engagement help us reach more people with these life-changing stories. Now, let's see how this story concludes. Richard Crawford died 3 days later. The funeral was large and well-attended, full of business associates and society people who knew Richard as a titan of industry. Nathaniel gave a eulogy that was honest without being cruel. "My father was a complex man who built an empire, but struggled to build relationships. He was driven and successful and deeply flawed. He taught me what to strive for and what to avoid. In the end, he taught me that success without love is just emptiness with better furniture. I hope he's found peace. Nathaniel didn't take Grace to the funeral. She was too young to understand, and there was no point in introducing her to a grandfather who had only ever been a threat. When she was older, he would tell her the truth about Richard Crawford. But for now, he protected her from it. The reading of the will was surprising. Richard had left everything to Nathaniel. The company, the fortune, all of it. There was a letter attached, written before the stroke, in his father's strong handwriting. Nathaniel, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm leaving you everything because despite our differences, you are my son and my only heir. What you do with it is your choice. Build the empire I started, or burn it down and start something new. I finally understand that I can't control you from beyond the grave. I was wrong. About Anastasia, about your marriage, about what makes a man successful. I was wrong about everything that mattered. I built an empire and lost my son. That's not a trade I would make again if I could go back. Be the father to Grace that I failed to be to you. That's the only legacy that matters. Richard, Nathaniel sold Crawford Industries to the board members who had been running it since he left. He took the money and put most of it into the Anastasia Hartley Foundation, expanding it into a nationwide organization supporting children and families dealing with loss. He kept enough to ensure Grace would never want for anything, but he lived modestly, teaching his daughter that wealth was a responsibility, not a right. 1 year after Anastasia's death, on what would have been her birthday, Nathaniel and Grace visited her grave. It was a beautiful spring day, the kind Anastasia had loved. Grace brought flowers, carefully arranged daisies she had picked herself. Do you think Mommy can see us? Grace asked as she placed the flowers by the headstone. I know she can, baby. I miss her. Me too. Every single day. Grace was quiet for a moment, then looked up at Nathaniel. But I'm glad I have you, Daddy. You're a really good daddy now. The now was honest and a little painful, but it was also true. He was a good father now. Not perfect, but present. Not flawless, but trying. Every day, he was trying. I'm glad I have you too, Grace. You and Mommy, you saved me. You reminded me what matters. They stood there together, a father and daughter at the grave of the woman who had loved them both, who had seen the good in a broken man and believed he could be whole again. She had been right. As they walked back to the car, Grace slipped her hand into his. Daddy, can we get pancakes? The ones with chocolate chips like Mommy used to make? Absolutely. And I think I'm finally getting good at them. You're okay at them, Grace said diplomatically, and Nathaniel laughed. Okay at pancakes, but getting better at everything else? Yes, much better at everything else. That night, after pancakes and homework and stories and tucking Grace in, Nathaniel sat in his office and opened his laptop. He had started writing, documenting his journey from billionaire CEO to present father, from man who had everything to man who understood what mattered. He didn't know if anyone would ever read it, but he wrote it anyway, for Grace, so she would understand, for himself, so he would remember, for anyone who was making the same mistakes he had made, who was choosing success over love, power over presence. He wrote about Anastasia, about the magic of their beginning and the tragedy of their ending, about Grace, and the phone call that changed everything, about Richard, and the poison of seeking approval from someone incapable of giving it freely, about learning too late what should have been obvious from the beginning. Love is the only thing that matters. Everything else is just noise. The words appeared on the screen, and Nathaniel knew they were true. He had spent years chasing success, building empires, seeking his father's approval, and he had been empty. Miserable, lost. Now he had a daughter who trusted him, a community that supported him, a purpose that fulfilled him. He lived in a modest house and drove a regular car and made mediocre pancakes. And he had never been happier. His phone buzzed. A text from Marie. Grace's dance recital is next month. She wants to know if you'll be there. Nathaniel smiled and typed back. Front row. Wouldn't miss it. Because that was who he was now. The father who showed up. The father who kept promises. The father who understood that being there was more important than being successful. He had finally become the man Anastasia always believed he could be. 2 years later, on a sunny Saturday afternoon, Nathaniel stood in the backyard of their house watching Grace play with other children from the neighborhood. She was 7 now, taller and more confident, still carried her mother in the way she moved and spoke and loved people. The Anastasia Hartley Foundation was thriving, helping hundreds of children across the country. Nathaniel ran it full-time now, using his business skills to make a real difference. He had found purpose in helping others the way he wished someone had helped him. Grace ran over, breathless and laughing. "Daddy, Emma's mom wants to know if we can all go to the park together. Can we? Please." Jennifer, Emma's mother, waved from across the yard. Over the past 2 years, she and Nathaniel had become friends. Good friends. Maybe, someday, something more. But Nathaniel wasn't rushing. He had learned that the important things couldn't be forced or hurried. "Sure, baby. Let me grab the frisbee." At the park, watching Grace play, Jennifer sat beside Nathaniel on the bench. "You're amazing with her, you know. Grace is lucky to have you." "I'm lucky to have her. She saved my life." She talks about her mom a lot. "You've done a beautiful job keeping Anastasia's memory alive for her. Anastasia deserves to be remembered. She was the best person I ever knew." Nathaniel paused. "I made so many mistakes, Jennifer. I hurt people. I wasted years. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night, just overwhelmed by regret. But you changed. That counts for something. Does it? I changed too late to save my marriage. Too late for Anastasia to see it. Too late for us to be a family." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "My husband died when Emma was 3. Car accident. I spent a year asking myself if there was anything I could have done differently that day. If I had asked him to stay home, if I had called him 5 minutes earlier, if I had changed one small thing, would he still be alive? I'm sorry, Jennifer. I didn't know." Eventually, I realized that regret is just love with nowhere to go. You regret the years you lost with Anastasia because you loved her. You regret not being there for Grace because you love her. The regret proves the love was real, but you can't let it paralyze you. You have to take that love and put it somewhere productive, and that's what you've done. The foundation, the way you parent Grace, the man you become, that's your love for Anastasia, transformed into something beautiful. Nathaniel felt tears prick his eyes. "Thank you. I needed to hear that. We all need grace, Nathaniel. The trick is learning to give it to ourselves." That night, Nathaniel tucked Grace into bed, and she looked at him seriously. "Daddy, do you think Mommy will be proud of us?" "I know she would be, baby. Why do you ask?" "Because I want to make her proud. I want to be like her when I grow up. Kind and good and brave." "You already are all those things." Grace smiled. "I learned from the best. Mommy taught me how to be good, and you're teaching me that it's okay to make mistakes as long as you fix them. Where did you get so wise?" "From you and Mommy. I got the best parts of both of you." After Grace fell asleep, Nathaniel went to his office and pulled out the box of Anastasia's letters one more time. He had read them hundreds of times, but tonight he needed them again. He opened the last letter she had written, the one about the baby they had lost, about forgiveness, about love. "Always and forever yours, Anastasia." "Always and forever yours," Nathaniel whispered back. "I'm sorry I didn't understand that when it mattered. I'm sorry I threw away our forever. But I promise you, Anna, I'm living the life you wanted for us. I'm being the man you believed in. I'm loving our daughter the way we should have loved her together. I hope that's enough. I hope wherever you are, you can see that I finally understand." He put the letter back carefully, closed the box, and turned off the light. Tomorrow, he would wake up early and make Grace pancakes. He would drive her to school and volunteer in her classroom. He would work at the foundation, helping families who were going through what he went through. He would pick Grace up and ask about her day. He would make dinner and help with homework and read stories and tuck her in. He would be present. He would be there. He would be the father Anastasia always knew he could be. And maybe, just maybe, that would be enough to forgive himself someday. The moral of this story isn't complicated. It's simple like all important truths. Love is not something you find time for. Love is what you make time for. Success is not measured in money or power or accomplishments. Success is measured in the people who know they can count on you. Family is not about blood or obligation. Family is about showing up day after day in the small moments that build a life. And regret, while painful, can be transformed into purpose if we're brave enough to change. Nathaniel Crawford had been a billionaire CEO with the world at his fingertips. He lost it all, and in losing it, he found what he should have been looking for all along. Love, purpose, presence, family. He had been given a second chance he didn't deserve through a phone call from a 5-year-old girl who needed her father, and he had grabbed that chance with both hands and refused to let go. That's the lesson. It's never too late to change. It's never too late to choose love over success, presence over presence, being there over having everything. But sometimes, by the time we learn that lesson, we've already lost what mattered most. Don't be Nathaniel. Don't wait for a phone call telling you someone is dying to realize what you have. Don't spend years chasing success while your family slips away. Don't let pride or fear or someone else's expectations keep you from the people who love you. Choose love. Choose presence. Choose family. Before it's too late. Before we close this journey together, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for walking this path with us. If this story touched you, if it made you think about your own life and choices, please share it with everyone you know. Subscribe to Dr. Samuel Chronicles and turn on notifications so you never miss these powerful stories that remind us what truly matters. Leave a comment below telling us what this story meant to you, what choices you're going to make differently because of it. Your engagement helps us reach more people who need to hear these messages. Thank you for being part of our family. Thank you for allowing these stories to touch your heart. Until next time, remember, the people you love are waiting for you to show up. Don't make them wait any longer. God bless you all.